Hi, Gig. How are you?
I'm doing well, Darius. How are you doing?
I'm doing well as also. Nice to meet you.
It is a pleasure to carry this conversation with you. This is a an interesting documentary series that you created with Dallas 2019. But
Yes.
before I actually get started, tell us about you know presenting this to a PBS Independent Lens.
Mhm. You said just you want to know about how it was presented to
Yeah,
PBS
well,
or?
I want to know how does it feel that this is going to be presented by PBS Lens
Oh,
Independent?
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it feels incredible. Yeah. I'm someone who grew up on PBS and just coming up on Sesame Street and just all of the informational documentaries as a kid. And so I've spoken about this throughout my career that I've always wanted to make work for the public that was easily accessible for the public. And so this docu-series was incredible in terms of just being able to get it made, but also the fact that it's going to be shared for free on PBS and on PBS.org. It's a dream because oftentimes I feel like sometimes paywalls can be a deterrent from seeing the work. And so I'm just grateful that
Mhm.
it's going to be available for the public.
Most excellent. So let's start with this, Darius. Tell us what actually sparked you to do this series in the first place.
Yeah, so I was brought onto the series at the end of 2018 and early 2019. And this was initially supposed to be sort of a series based off this previous project called True Conviction that was focused on criminal justice in the city of Dallas. And when I came on board, we decided to take a pivot and expand sort of our lens to sort of look at how our city's functioning, and not just how our city's functioning, but who's in those roles, what sort of the pressures and just sort of the stressors of carrying out these positions. And we decided to look just beyond not just judges and individuals who were impacted by the criminal justice system, but to look at individuals like the medical examiner, like the city manager, like the commissioner, the Director of Health and Human Services to sort of give us a wider scope of who's actually running the city and how, just how sort of does that look like from an observational standpoint. We hear about our cities often, but we rarely get a window in terms of just what is actually happening behind the scenes.
Now, are you a Dallas local yourself as a director, or you were brought in
I was brought
somewhere
in, I'm
else?
actually from Houston, Texas, born and raised. And so I've been to Dallas several times, but I'm from Houston.
Now, the story with the subjects of Dallas here it is fascinating, but I'm trying to figure out how is this different from other cities, other urban cities, because it almost seems like Dallas is telling one story, but it's telling a similar story to other urban cities
Absolutely.
around the country.
But and I think what you hit on is actually was perfect. To me, I feel like even though we are focusing on Dallas, that the themes and the issues that the people in Dallas are tackling, they speak to the rest of the country. That this is a city in the United States of America. This is a city in the state of Texas. So it's not going to be a situation where we feel like, where I feel like when you watch this, you may feel like you're watching something that's very unfamiliar. It should feel familiar. It should feel like this is speaking to me. And that's one of the really incredible things in the edit. We discovered that so many moments in the series just felt like they were speaking to people, not just in Dallas, but speaking to us as a nation.
Now, tell us about the subjects that you have selected to be part of the stories in in for Dallas 2019. I want to know is like how did you choose them, and then how did you actually convince them to be part of it?
Yeah, no, Gig, that's great. So we started with just looking at the people on the front lines, the public representatives, the superintendent, again, the sheriff, the commissioner. And these are not easy individuals to get a yes from. And so we moved down to Dallas about 6 months before we started to film with the work of my story producers. And we started initially just asking some of the really powerful public representatives, just, what would it be like if you all were open to letting us observe your role, observe your job. And some of them sort of chuckled and didn't take us seriously initially. But then once we started to continue to press and shadow and follow them around and ask questions, they eventually said yes. And how Dallas works, even though it's a big city, it's also ran like a town. Once one or two important individuals say yes, it begins to cascade and other people say yes. And so, we were filming with Dr. Wong, had an incredible experience with Dr. Wong where he goes to visit Abounding Prosperity. And there we meet Zamora, who's another participant. Sometimes filming with one person leads you to film with another person. And it's just a more organic process. But it started truly, Gig, just with the frontline individuals who worked for the city, who worked for the county, who were doing the work. And then from there, we sort of expanded out.
So how did this film production actually take place? I'm assuming you talked and filmed one subject at a time.
No, we were there where we filmed pretty much like a feature film, where we filmed
Oh.
40 plus days in a row. And we filmed multiple participants at the time. That this is truly sort of an experiential viewing experience because you're watching essentially us film this in real time. So sort of this 5 week experience is the same as the 5 episodes reflects the 5 weeks of production. And so we would shoot pretty much from sun up to sundown, thankfully with weekends off, but we would film multiple participants a day and we would get their assistants to send their schedules weeks in advance and we would sort of plot out events based on the themes of an episode or based on the relationships of different participants.
Now, how many subjects did you originally filmed and planned, and how many actually made the cut?
Surprisingly, I would say I think we filmed, I think we may have 19 to 20 participants total throughout the 5 episodes, and we only had to cut one or two, just because the storylines didn't fit, but the majority of what we shot is actually in the series.
Now, it is actually interesting because I've seen a lot of independent lens stuff, and this is a series which I find it fascinating because they rarely do a series. But could you explain why it was a series in the first place? Was it because there was just so much material to tell these stories?
Well, I think it was always initially pitched as a series. So even when I came on board, it was supposed to be a series. And we definitely felt that because of who we wanted to follow, that we couldn't fit all of this in one episode. And so we wanted to sort of give an audience in a 4.5 hour time span, just a snapshot of 5 weeks in time. And so the series just allows for more breadth and more depth as we sort of navigate the different issues, whether it's the carceral system, whether we're talking about health and human services, whether we're talking about just the local school, the school system through the lens of the superintendent. So the series just gives us more space to really tackle these issues.
So in the case with the 5 week in time, this is just a snapshot of a city in
Yeah.
2019. Were there going to be any follow-ups later on
I'm
during
hoping, and so I'm hoping this is sort of like the beginning of like an anthology, where if you think about just sort of from an anthropological standpoint, this series is sort of like a timestamp of what happened in 2019, what the world was feeling, what the individuals in the city were feeling. And I'm hoping that once the series is released, that we can sort of return, if not to Dallas, to another city to sort of get another snapshot of where we are as a nation at that time. And maybe in the next 15, 25 years, we have sort of like a catalog of cities where you're sort of tracking how cities are evolving or how we're progressing or we're not progressing over time. And it's really just interesting to see how now, just with this current new election just that recently passed, that we're sort of like going back in time in a way. Even though this is 2019, I feel like there's a lot of things that are mentioned in the series that speak to where we are now in 2024.
now the timing of the production? There was a mention of a natural disaster. Was that the timing on purpose of the production, or was this luck that actually happened?
That was definitely just luck, devastating luck that we were already on the schedule to start production the very next day. And we were actually filming at the State Fair. It was the closing night of the State Fair in Dallas. And we had to wrap early because they said the weather was getting a little chaotic. And we thought it was just a thunderstorm. And lo and behold, that evening it was I think a F3. I'm not sure, but a really large tornado, if not a couple tornadoes, slammed Dallas the next eve that same evening. And so when we woke up to film, that was the initial thing to film, that we saw devastation all around us, that literally 10 minutes away from where we were staying in North Dallas, it was decimated. And so it just made sense to begin filming. Then once we started to film with participants, they were referencing the storm. They were talking about it. And even one of the participants is working on a house that's been damaged.
What was the most surprising thing that surprised you during this production?
What I would say is that I feel like despite the wide range of personalities and backgrounds of the individuals, I feel like what we're all desiring in terms of just from a human standpoint, I was surprised that it's very similar. That we don't, in the series, we don't ever bring up who is a Republican, who's a Democrat, who's an independent, that these people are treated as humans. And so you feel that there is a deep desire to connect and that there is a sort of deep desire for a better future. That this is not that everyone is sort of grappling with, how to survive day to day, but in terms of where we're headed, that there's a lot of concerns that people are that I would say that despite some of the greater challenges, there are a lot of people who wake up every day with the passion and with the zeal to do the work, to push us forward as a society, to push us forward as a city. And that was really surprising because I felt like it was going to be almost like more pessimistic or more cynical filming with these individuals. And I really felt a lot of love, a lot of care, a lot of generosity. And I started to understand that, whether you believe or agree with people's politics or not, I just respect the fact that people get up early in the morning every single day with the commitment to fight on behalf of the people. And so I just had a lot of respect for that.
Well said, well said. And what's up next for you after Dallas 2019?
Yeah, Dallas took up 6 years of my life, and so I'm I'm grateful. I've been doing documentary consistently since I released my own film in 2014, and so now the pivot is going into fictional space, and so I'm really looking forward to working on my first fictional narrative feature film, and that's what's next.
Well, let me wrap it up with one last question with you, Dallas. I mean, not Dallas, Darius, for Dallas 2019, because it's such a human interest story that a lot of people need to see. But as audiences everywhere will go on to PBS Independent Lens, what is the one most important take you hope they walk away with after watching a series like this?
Yeah, I hope the take is, and I know some people push back on the I guess the cliche term or phrasing that we all should have a purpose. But I do feel that in this series and in life in general, that this spectacular thing that we call life is very rare. It's very fleeting, goes by really quickly. And so, what is your commitment in terms of not just your own life, but in terms of your family, your community, in terms of purpose and progress within your space? That we see the folks on the front lines, and that you don't have to be the city manager, you don't have to be the county commissioner, but sort of what is your commitment to sort of pushing this thing forward? And this thing that I'm referencing is the country, of the democracy, that it doesn't just start on the federal level, it doesn't just happen on the state level, that it really starts inside the home, and that everyone does have a purpose, that your job is not to just sort of sit in the background and to allow others to take leadership, that you as an individual have the agency and have the right to express yourself and to, again, to push and to challenge how your city is run, how your school district is run, what's happening in your neighborhood. And so this to me, I feel like just as a one simple statement, I just really hope people take their purpose in life seriously and understand that, like Dr. Bernard says in episode 5, you're not guaranteed a tomorrow. We're not guaranteed
Mhm.
another day. And so it's just important to make every day important and crucial. Even if it's something small and minuscule, I feel like it's just important to have a vision and to begin to implement that vision in your home, in your space. That's my wish.
Well said. Well said, Darius. Thank you very much for speaking to us about Dallas 2019. This is a terrific humans story
Yes.
because because we're talking about multiple people and it's just not just restrained to Dallas. It is a story that marks for any urban city around the
It
country.
is. It's for all of us. It's for all of us. And I thank you so much for taking the time to have this interview and checking out the material.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next time. Bye now.
I'll see you later.